what are norms that I haven't mentioned but help us communicate and stay active and present with each other? Um, who would like to set a norm out?
Would you like me
Screaming.
to turn the music off while we do this?
Yeah. I don't have my world music on at all, so I can't
Oh,
hear it. But anybody else?
I think
You're
I
saying the
can.
video,
Yeah, it's
you
coming
mean,
in
has
strong. See
music
it.
to it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
turn it down.
Um, and for those of you, I think everybody's been here before, but for those of you who are wanting to work their world controls a little bit, you can pull both of your triggers at the same time, and a menu is going to fly up that will let you adjust the world settings however you need. Okay, so yeah, what are norms we want to practice today that will help us participate with each other? I just said a
Yeah.
couple, listening for who is sharing the least and working them in, kind of making a space where we all have room to speak. That was one of them. And then the other one is greeting people. So taking turns, figuring out who's come in but maybe needs a greeting and a hello, would be helpful to me for sure. But what are other ones?
I have one.
Mhm. Go for it.
Reaction or reacting when someone says something during the event, even a or that's interesting.
Yeah,
Would encourage people to share more.
exactly. And emojis. Yeah, Mary just used the emojis. So those are ways to, even if you're on desktop and can't use your body language, it's a way to kind of be in a dance with each other and demonstrate that we're present together. And so we all know we're listening and feeling what's being shared. Yeah, thank you. It's one of my favorite ones. What else? Yeah, Mary.
I don't know how applicable it is for the summit, but maybe for the workshop. But raising your hand
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be next in line to speak something.
Yeah, the raising the hand, even though there's not a lot of us yet here today, is a way for uh, us to all kind of keep track of each other and know that somebody's actually ready to speak and find a way to weave each other in for sure. Yeah, and gives me the position of being able to say thank you, and I'm going to point towards someone else, and it's a way to say you're ready. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll always be your turn. So yeah. What are other ones? How do we build a culture that's gonna feel good today, but also feel meaningful? Yeah, our money.
All right. I think this one, I don't know how much has been covered. Probably a little bit overlap, but it may be in the neighborhood with greetings. But I guess goodbyes too.
Hmm.
Be able to let each other know when we have to leave. They're early or on time or stuff like that.
Yeah,
Just to make sure, I guess, if you're not, we don't, I guess, necessarily know if we're having technical difficulties, stuff like that. So
yeah.
just the
Bringing the
status
human
checks, those kind of
into
thing. Yeah.
the hello and the goodbyes. That really helps for sure. Yay. So checking out if you have to leave early, letting us know, and just recognizing that you make an impact being here, and when you leave, we feel that too, and that's okay. That's good. That means we're resonating with each other. So letting people know how we can celebrate and support your need to leave, if that's true. Yeah. Any others, like what brought you here today? What about this culture is making you come back again? Because everybody here has been at least once.
one.
I came for the snack and the coffee at the end.
Donuts. That's right.
Oh, yep.
Now I want some.
Mm-hmm. I saw Profidor.
Yeah, making sure that this environment is inclusive and respectful, and letting people participate if they're interested, and to not exclude people that, well, are wanting to be a part of what this group represents.
Right. Yeah, we love the word inclusion, right? And yet the workshop today is actually going to be partly on figuring out what that means for bridge makers right now, when we have a new challenge that's showing up, and we get to check in together about that instead of it being a just top down decision making. So yeah, thank you for that. Any others for those of you who haven't spoken up yet? Okay, Theo?
It's a norm set that I feel here very prominently. It's connecting our patience with our connections to check in with each other.
Okay. Connecting patients with connections to check in. Okay. That's interesting. So it sounds like you have a value of practicing patience.
I felt like coming here was the answers I've been looking for to communicate more consciously with others and with myself.
Yeah, so maybe what I'm hearing in that is sometimes we get uncomfortable together. Sometimes there's that awkward kind of belly freeze. There's the moments where we don't quite get it, right? And the norm that I try to encourage and practice with all of you is, even though the instinct might be, let's pave over that and just keep going, there are also times to pause and slow down and listen differently and be in the awkwardness, but also make sure that we're not leaving people behind accidentally. And so I'm always watching whatever body language I can glean off of all the different creative avatar expressions here. But I'm always looking for, am I missing something that's happening underneath that maybe we're not naming yet? So thank you, Theo. All right, Jose, you got one you want to throw in the middle?
Probably don't be high on illicit substances.
Yeah. Yeah, we're being purposeful as human beings in this third space reality. And so it's important to try to come as sober and present and supporting your body as much as you can so we can really discern each other. That's the norm for us. Yeah. So I'm thinking of any others that are left over that haven't been named. Let's see.
Have we said be kind yet?
I don't think so, which is usually one of the first ones people grab. What does kindness mean? How do we know we're being kind versus nice? Because nice is what we do when we're trying to fit in.
I feel like both would be trying to fit in though, because they can seem like being nice is kind of holding like an apology or a favor for someone, while being kind is assuring a perspective that doesn't try to hurt somebody or try to oppress somebody.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I resonate with the idea that kind is about caring about impact, not just intent. niceness can be intentional, but actually have an adverse impact. Kindness is about staying with the process and seeing how it really lands. It's more responsible. Yeah. Yay. Okay. Well, welcome to the October 2025 Bridgemakers Summit. You are all on the ride with us. And it's a cozy group today. I like it. So I am Heyu, your trusted, hopefully sometimes and sometimes irritating guide of the bridge. We're gonna do our normal routine as we just kind of do an overview, talking about where the bridge is at, state of the bridge, updates, new features, upcoming events, and then we will look at the workshop today, which is on constructive and destructive community design. We have some questions to gnash at, kind of discuss, and see if there's insights to share as a group today. I was going to do it on utilizing AI in community building, but these seemed a bit more urgent, and that'll give me a little more time to process how to offer a kind of overview of AI ethics and design that I'm using in a way that hopefully doesn't confuse or scare people. Because I have so many different ways I use AI, and I want to be mindful about how I do that so it's useful. Yeah, and then finally we will grab a picture and talk about any last questions, and that's kind of the overall. It is a 2-hour workshop or summit. We sometimes will look for a body break space, but please take care of your body as you need, and let us know if you're fully disappearing. But we'll assume you're coming back if you disappear for a little bit. Okay, next slide would be, we're gonna do some shout outs here. And an appreciation for our most recent Helper graduate. And then we're going to talk about our edges.
Ooh, did I set the delay correctly?
Oh, is there a long delay?
Oh no, it's just frozen for me. Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't see the little animated icon animating, you might need to
refresh. Does everybody see the
Looking
slide
for
with
me.
the animating spinning icon?
No, I don't.
Okay.
At
Did
some
you
point,
did you see any slide
so
back
I'm
there?
going to. I see the Bridgemakers Leadership Summit.
Okay.
Okay, now I see it, and I've just refreshed. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Cool.
Yay.
Okay.
All right.
Also, the menu you can pull out has the same screen on the back of it. You can just turn it over if you want to just look at it in front of you.
Yeah, that part's really nice if you want to look and the words seem really far away. Okay, so as you can see in this bridge, we have growth and edges, right? You maybe have heard of growth edges before, but we split it up. How are we thriving? What are we celebrating? And then what are the kind of pain points? What are the parts where we need support and we're thinking about how to do this better? So let's go to the next slide. So the next slide is just where we're going to shout out the people who are continuing to boost our server. As you all might have noticed, our server is a bit quieter, at least on the front-facing side where you might be hanging out. Not as much conversation going on, but we're definitely still very grateful for those who are hanging in there and continuing to believe in the bridge and invest in it. And boosting is one way to do that. So we've got George and Carl and Armani and Llama and me. All these different roles we're holding. So yay. Thank you everybody who continues to boost. And if you have a spare boost laying around your house somewhere, you're welcome to add that as a contribution. We could use a few more towards our next goal. All right, next slide. Oh, you already got to that one. Never mind. Sorry. Okay, so community bridges. You maybe have seen this already. You probably see a channel called Friends of Bridge Makers. This is the minimum channel to get your community involved with our community. And it's just basically a cross advertising, or not even. We just might be advertising for you, but your community might not be advertising with us yet or our stuff. So there's really very few strings attached to that. But we're also recruiting and in conversations with people around different levels of partnership that get a bit more serious and have contracts with them. So if you want to know more about that, you can look on our website at the very top front page. We have more description of what those partnerships can look like. Okay, next slide. Some of you have seen all this before, so I don't want to dwell too long. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see. Community shoutouts. Right, we want you to also add your input. So I hear about interesting communities at least once a week. We have a form to fill out, and you can also post in our forum if you just have an event or you think this would be interesting. And you can always tag one of our administrators to make sure we get our eyes on it and we can tag other people. All right, next slide. We're going to breeze through these pretty quick. We get to the meaty stuff. Yay. So we have some celebrations here. So welcome back Llama Rock, who's our advisor working into core advisorship again, and really helping us with a lot of the adminning stuff right now and creating maybe a new event. So really, really grateful Llama's with us again. Llama was one of the original founders, and it's good to have her back. And so then welcome to Frofredor, our planetary anomaly in the corner. Hello. Also world builder and avatar builder, all the things. Glad you're here, Frofredor. And also Ronan, not only as our Helper 1, but recent added advisor. So Ronan's holding 2 roles with us right now as nice. Ground up and sky down. So we're glad to have you here, Ronan. Yay.
It's wonderful to be here.
Oh. And then we have Theo, who has recently graduated Helper 1. We're going to play Theo's video today to just shout Theo out. And yeah, it's so lovely to have, even on walkabouts, people come back even beyond their initial month away. But you all might know this, but we ask all helpers to take a 1-month break after helping us for about 3 months to kind of reassess and see where they want to land, and if they want to keep leaning in or if they want to just kind of float in our membership pool and enjoy some first point access when we have it for events and other niceties. Okay, let's keep going. So, appreciating Theo. So make sure to turn your world volume up. This is just a brief video prepared by Lau for Theo. But go ahead and push play.
He's got so many ideas.
Yay.
Thank you, Theo, for your service to bridge makers. Theo's like, and star
Signature.
moment. So, Theo, would you like to share just a brief kind of reflection on your being a helper? You're welcome to come up and do that if you'd like. And if not, that's okay too.
He's got a switch avatars. Oh,
I guess so.
I was trying to get to the official one that I use for bridge makers usually.
you have an
But this
official one?
the one they use for the slides, it's not working. I think.
Oh, yeah, you
Oh,
were
there it
in it.
goes.
There you
Kind of
go.
like a Rubik's Cube head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
So I have a lot of gratitude for bridge makers. I see so much of the space being so much more for many individuals who lose their way of their own identity and community. And this place brings a lot of understanding and learning and teaching models for many individuals like myself who can try to hold the connections of communication with other people and allow much growth through our patience and understanding. And I really appreciated everything Bridgemakers was. I appreciate you, Dr. Diaz, so much with so many things that had made roadblocks for myself or for yourself. We have come to a very clear understanding, I feel, to try to reason our growth, whether that is together or in separate ways. So I just thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Theo. It was lovely. Yeah, it's a very immersive applied culture. So for people who are wanting the ABCD curriculum, Silence here. Welcome, Silent. That can feel confusing and sometimes stressful for people because it's about like integrated learning and not spoon feeding, slamming on people most of the time, at least. So thank you for your. I'm always, when people are helpers with us, I'm looking for, without trying to create it necessarily, but I'm looking for one moment where things fall apart and how we do with that. How do we clean that up? How do we build a bridge there? How do we have misunderstanding and work through it? And that's not about evaluating you, it's about practicing with you better ways to build bridges. So glad we had our full circle moments. Everybody here who has helped on any projects, we've had those moments. So
It's
oof.
appreciating the parts of the pieces that really brought the memories of our consciousness together. It
Yeah.
allows it to evolve and it allows it to speak deeper and more truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah. The cracks open up deeper places to grow roots, basically, is how I hear that. Okay, well, let's keep going and still celebrate Theo one more time because so much happened in those 3 months. My goodness, wow, what a journey!
Does feel
Yay.
like
Like a whole landscape, valleys and mountains and rivers and everything. Okay, well, that being said, if you too would like to join us as a helper, this is the overall recipe of what we're doing for helpers. And this is the Helper 1 cycle, which is the entrance place. It allows you to shed the newbie role and actually grow as a bridge makers with us and get some exposure to the bridge behind the scenes and get access to some of our mentors slash advisors and get some direct collaboration going on just with little bits. Helper 1 is not about big bits usually. It's about just trying something and seeing what it's like with us. And so ideally there's some kind of project that's completed. Most of the time there's some kind of contribution, but It's just the try journey first. All right, so let's keep going. And here we go. So these are some of the events that we're doing regularly still. Love Letters to Firefly is transitioning from a Bridgemakers event to something called Wash's Dinosaurs, which was designed from the beginning as kind of a de-docking space as the group grows around the event. Wash's Dinosaurs are the group in VR chat associated with this event. And if you're interested in showing up for it on Thursdays, that's what you would want to join. And the link to that should be in our server in the event also. So we also have this week, I need to get my slides to them, but I'm going to be talking about restorative justice in the metaverse. And what we're going to be doing today is a little bit of that. What does that really mean? Even if you hate the word metaverse, this third space, how do we practice restorative justice here? So I'm going to be over in our neighboring app called Engage, talking to a group that is focusing on October is anti-bullying month. So I'm going to be doing that there. You're welcome to come. And then Fridays, we have our Games and Connect with JW. We're now calling it, we need to change that, I forgot, conscious gaming. And it's a whole new style that we're practicing. How do we play, but also check in with each other and stay conscious about how that play is impacting everybody present and kind of slow things down, but enrich them. And we're doing like emoji polls and stuff. So it's not super heavy, but it is playful and more conscious. And then we have our regular community builder meetup. And then we have street epistemology and leadership summit. Next month, the summit is going to probably be with me and Venia. We're going to be talking after long awaited anticipation by some of you more about the 3 graces return. When we have to send our community members out of the community after some conflict, how do we allow them back in? What is the stopgap and the checkpoints for that? So we're going to be going a more deeper dive just into that topic next month and getting you all involved in it. We're going to do something like together. Okay. So this is kind of our big event for the next month, which is going to be this. If you haven't seen the video yet, we actually have a star within the video amongst us, which is No One Cold. Yay. But
Yay.
yeah, one of the featured interviewees is No One Cold, who is the inspiration and original founder of Talk Group. And so we're going to be hopefully we'll be in this space or another space that is in development, but no concrete pressure that will be done. So, but yeah, we're trying to build a world to really honor this momentous time. We've got a little documentary featuring 3 different communities. So we've been playing with black holes and bridge ribbons and all kinds of things. Hopefully you'll see a sample of it soon. And shout out to Frofridor, our world constellation person over here, for jumping in headfirst into a very fast project and practicing good self-care. But we're going to talk about that today because this is a pattern that probably happens in all communities, definitely feeling the ache of it in ours. So one of the questions today is going to be, how do we support those who are in super construction mode in taking care of themselves and regulating? So that's going to be a part of our conversation. But the overarching theme of this is what I call community design, which maybe feels really academic to just make it that, I don't know. It's a long title. How do we build communities, right? And how do we structure them ahead of time and plan that they're going to keep working? And so I think the 2 questions today are offering a really interesting direction of construction and destruction. How do we mediate both directions? So let's go to next slide. And to keep us all entertained, we've got some pictures from the last month that are going to be up here. Not necessarily.
Welcome to the Explainer.
Oh,
okay, let's
yes.
talk about a
And now you
huge
get to watch
question
a
for
little
our
video.
digital lives. What does justice even look like in the metaverse?
This
You
is
know,
a
as our
pretty version.
online worlds get more and more immersive, that old school ban hammer approach just isn't cutting it anymore. So today we're going to dive into how communities are moving beyond just punishment to build something, well, something more human.
So let's kick things off with a feeling I bet a lot of you know all too well. Whether you're in the middle of a heated game or just trying to chat, that sting of online toxicity, it's real. And this user from Reddit really nails it. It feels like it's all getting way more personal, and that harm, it just cuts so much deeper these days.
And here's the thing. That's not just a feeling. It's actually backed by research. See, immersive spaces like VR don't just copy real-world social stuff. They turn the volume way up. When you're an avatar right there in a virtual space, your brain is kind of tricked into thinking it's all real. So the good times feel amazing, but the bad times, they feel so much worse. Harassment isn't just words on a screen anymore. It feels like a genuine personal violation.
So what is this toxicity we're all talking about really? Let's get a clear definition.
We throw this word toxicity around a lot, but what does it actually mean? Way more than just a couple of trolls being annoying. We're talking about a whole pattern of behavior, harassment, discrimination, hate speech, that basically poisons the well for everybody. It creates this culture where people feel unwelcome or unsafe, and it ends up pushing them right out of the communities they want to be in.
All right, so when this stuff happens, what's the standard response? Well, for a long, long time, the answer's been pretty straightforward and pretty harsh. Yes, the ban hammer. It's been the #1 tool in the moderator's toolkit for like decades. It's what we call a punitive approach. It's fast, it's final, and it seems like it works. But what we're all starting to figure out is that it's kind of a blunt instrument, and a lot of the time it might cause even more problems down the line. This slide right here really gets to the core of it all. See, punitive justice is all about rules. It asks one simple question: what rule was broken? And the answer is always some kind of punishment. But think about it. In these really tight-knit metaverse communities, getting banned can feel like social death. It's a huge reason why we hear so much about cancel culture. But restorative justice completely flips the script. It asks a totally different question. Who was harmed, and how do we make things right? The goal isn't revenge. It's about repair and growth. And this is where things get really, really interesting. It's these smaller grassroots communities, especially in VR and the Metaverse, that are leading the charge on a whole new approach, one that sees justice not as a hammer, but as a way to heal. So the whole idea behind restorative justice is that when someone causes harm, they're not just hurting one person, they're actually tearing the fabric of the whole community, that sense of trust and safety. So the fix isn't just to kick them out, it's to bring everyone involved to the table to figure out together how to move forward and mend that tear. And hey, this isn't just some feel-good theory. We've actually got data on this. A study from 2021 found that when people see toxicity and step in with what's called a benevolent correction, which is basically just a polite and helpful, hey, that's not cool, observers feel like justice was actually restored. But when people fight back with more toxicity or just ignore it, it makes everyone feel worse. The message is pretty clear. Repair actually works. Okay, so repair is great. But what if we could go even deeper? What if, instead of just fixing harm after it happens, we could actually transform the very things that cause it to begin with? Well, that's the next level, transformative justice. So how do we even start to do that? One really powerful framework for this is called the DOT model. It's a way to help us understand the roles we tend to fall into during a conflict, and more importantly, how we can shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of genuine abundance. Now this is a total game changer. It shows us how we can completely reframe the parts we play in a conflict. So instead of being the villain who's just lashing out with rage, you can become the challenger who uses that same energy to push for positive change. Instead of being the victim who feels stuck, you can become the creator who actually takes charge and shapes their own story. It's this amazing shift that turns a crisis into a real opportunity to grow. Okay, that all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like when you put it into practice? Let's check out a real-world example, a framework that online communities are using right now called the Grace Path. So instead of just dropping the ban hammer,
The GRACE path creates a clear process for real accountability. It all starts with a private, non-judgmental chat. It gives the person who caused the harm a chance to actually be heard. And here's the most important part. It offers them a clear path back to the community, a way for them to learn, to grow, and to actually make amends. It's accountability, but with a human face. So let's bring it all together. What does it really take to build these kinds of strong, resilient online communities? Well, it starts by admitting we need more than just one tool in our toolkit. We need to embrace a whole new way of thinking about repair, growth, and transformation. And the good news is, this isn't some fantasy. Developers and community managers are already doing this stuff. I mean, yeah, it starts with the basics, like having clear rules and an easy way to report problems. But it also gets into some really creative solutions, like designing game mechanics that actually reward you for being helpful, or having the community itself create a safer space agreement. It's all about being proactive. So in the end, it really boils down to this fundamental choice. As we all build this next chapter of the internet together, are we going to build higher walls to keep people out? Or are we going to try to build a wider circle of repair to bring people in? The answer to that question is going to shape not just our online worlds, but maybe even our shared humanity.
Thank you. You got a little preview of how AI is being used to some degree too. So thank you for anybody that just still feels a lot of cringe with AI for watching that with us. And before we keep going to the next slide, I want to pause there and just see how that landed for everyone. I was on the fence on including it, but I thought it gave a very fast preview of some of the elements I'm juggling and asking these questions. Just what are initial impressions other than AI voice or all the things we could take shots at, which I welcome that too. But what did you get out of it instead of how could it be improved? We'll get to that part.
I like the idea of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
I was just going to reiterate what I said in the earlier. It kind of sounded like Venya, but
A
as an AI
digitalized,
and
yeah.
sped up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it definitely has. We
I
have
was
the
about
real
to
deal
say.
with us for sure. Yeah. Yeah. What else is present? So Ronan?
The idea of the grace path, and again, the point of restorative justice, which really is something that quite honestly is missing from the vocabulary. Retribution seems to be the other form of justice, which seems so easy and yet works so little.
Yeah. Yeah. Retribution, exclusionary. Like, to some degree, I think a lot of us are retreating to this third space because the physical reality space community systems were so missing for us. They just didn't bring enough joy. They didn't bring enough of what we needed, at least when we started in here. And so it can be hard to get out of that mindset of I'm just here to cope better with my life and say, what is our responsibility together to make a better space for even people who are not like us, so to speak. Thank you. What other reflections? Okay, yeah.
I just thought it was interesting, the concept of banhammer. I've always thought of it always like this, where if the process of something like that is sort of an answer, then the other answers we try to make without that process sometimes won't resonate hard enough as what the banhammer would do, or that it's not done in a conscious way where it is meeting the community to follow with patience and curiosity to the aspect or the process of this unfoldment or integration. Like, how do we integrate while also maintaining focus, concentration, attention for our community and our leaders as well? There's like I always feel like there's deeper aligned the trails of the sand sometimes when it comes to like it's some the words are even the minuscule aspect of what creates and destroys community and how to like follow along that line with a much awareness of the past, but also awareness of ourselves too. Like where does that model sometimes just not fit when we're doing it, and can it be fit to try to like regard into insight and ideas that may help with the process moving forward.
Okay. I got some of that. And yeah, the visual I get is how do you tell somebody inside a chrysalis that they should include more community? There's a lot of people in here that are incubating and they don't necessarily have that dream yet. So how do we have a community with people that aren't dreaming about inclusivity the same way we are? Who else would like to share? Yeah, Armani.
I'm still thinking about it, but I think I think about it's sort of like an inertia where there's a lot of pre-existing in reference to the band Hammer, but especially just I guess the culture around that there's some inertia to issues like adjusting to what alternatives could be to that or including what that looks like. So there's some in essence, I think what I'm saying is that it takes some time to just adjust and slow down to the possibility that there's another culture to create around something restorative and transformative in a culture that that you're used to that's simpler.
Yeah, yeah. So I hear in that the value of slowing down when we want to go faster, just automatically react, and that is the prevailing culture. So valuing that pause that allows us to construct a little bit more and figure out what restoring means, even. Yeah, thank you. I know there are more, but are there any that are just like, if I don't say this, I'm going to be distracted thinking about it before we move on? Anything else? Okay. Let's go to the next slide then. So I'm going to we're going to have a couple frames here and then we're going to get into those questions and hash them out a little bit. So this idea of construction, right? Construction versus destruction. I've just been part of how I will find many perspectives is by thinking about them from gradients, right? And so constructively speaking, these are some of the areas that I hope we're embodying in or that I meditate on a lot. How are we building the bridge? And that this concept of collaborative incubation, right? If we were all chickens, we're all hatching and sitting on each other at the same time. You know, we take turns being the heat that warms us and grows us, and being the ones that are boiling a bit, but we're bursting, we're growing something new. So the first piece is, the culture is not going faster and faster, but it's building this type of kindness and conflict resiliency in it. And that isn't coming just from top down, that we're all demonstrating versions of that and how we kind of infect each other with that culture in hopefully the best possible way, which I get a lot of just kind of on the fly feedback from people that then they go from these events or these experiences to another group and they just see everything with different eyes because they've gotten some language and some experience of what conscious like space development looks like real time. And so we do that also with these kind of pretty structured but community events that are that have a ritual and a goal to them. And over time, and that's the key, they're not like, you have 2 minutes to talk and then you're going to disappear. Like, that's not bridge makers, right? Maybe we'll have that someday, but ours is you get to know each other over time and start to find out how to blend and correlate and connect what you're interested in with other people. But we don't build it off of like, okay, we all have a hobby and marble pickleball or something. I just made that up, but like we're not connecting over necessarily any particular hobbies. We're connecting over a practice, and that's what makes us constructive. And yet, what can happen for some of our helpers is, and if you've read our transitions channel, it definitely has some feedback of going, oh, sometimes the crunch, sometimes the pressure can be a struggle. It can feel like we're in burnout territory. So I want us to just kind of contemplate, ideally together, how do we support our helpers in balancing that without feeling micromanaged or paternalized, right? We don't want to treat people like children, but we also want to make sure we're not encouraging a atmosphere of hyper productivity. And so even like sometimes I get proposals for like doing a project really hard and fast for a long, like a extended amount of time. And wherever possible, I probably am going to push back on that unless there's a real deadline that, many people are going to miss out on something if we don't get it done by then. And this partly has to do with this. We're not just about the bridge, we're about how the bridge was built. And that takes more time. And that sense of urgency we have as exposure in the rest of our lives is going to always kind of pull on us to get a little faster and do something a little harder. So the first question, I'm asking today is about helpers. How do we help build the brakes so that helpers feel, oh, Primal's here. Oh, that's gonna be interesting. Yay. So the next slide, we're going to look from the destructive end of things.
Hello there again.
Hey, Primal, welcome. This is definitely
Doing
more.
fine. How you guys doing?
Yeah, glad you're here. So we're discussing constructive and destructive elements of community building to catch you up. And so from the destructive end of things, the case example to bring to you, and this has happened a few times, but more people even present here have seen this firsthand. You all might know this, and on a future slide, you might get to see some visuals of this, but before Bridgemakers, there was something called the Troll Project, and this was a ethnographic social scientist journey with good advisors and a lot of good guidance on directly engaging with the most destructive presentations of trolling within immersive spaces. And it led to also talking to community builders and leaders and moderators. And it expanded from that first contact with trolls to really having a bigger conversation on what do we do about this. The banning doesn't seem to be working. It actually, for the most part, seems to be just growing more of this behavior. So what does this really mean? And so coming as a leader and as a personal like practice, more from a restorative and transformative justice frame, how did that bridge the Troll Project into Bridge Makers? And where is the boundary for Bridge Makers around how we're actually practicing that together? Because while I have some skills there and have practiced that as kind of a solo leader of a project, it doesn't mean this community is ready at the level that I envision someday we will be. So the conversation today is going to be like, well, we do have this Three Graces return piece that hasn't really had to be enacted with us that much because we haven't had anybody be super harmful in our community yet. That doesn't necessarily address the new question that's coming up, when we see or know that there's harmful behavior happening outside of our community, are we just preemptively banning somebody? Or how do we actually build a bridge for them too that is a we instead of a hey you? Actually rhymed. And so you are all part of that journey. No pressure that this is the day we decide, but this is the day we get to start this conversation as a circle. Because everybody here on some level has probably faced that weird hush hush silence kind of distancing that happens in community spaces at times where we just end up getting locked out eventually and we don't even know what happened. And that's the best possible way that it goes. But many times it can be much more painful and scathing and or preemptive, like we're shadow banned, but we don't know who talked to who and whatever else. So this is where we start that kind of and listen to each other and kind of hear for the tones in between. But in general, a lot of the fear that I hear in community settings is around the harassment, the exclusionary behavior, and then the toxicity. So a fast forward version of explaining this is somebody is not respecting somebody else's boundaries repeatedly, and then there's like hyper boundaries starting to set up by the community that excludes. And then what can happen is those boundaries that feel comforting, like we just made a beautiful castle and we're inside and we're safe, can go from a sense of a womb of holding us and being nurturing to a tomb. Now we're locked in. We don't know how to get out. And we're feeling like this, I feel like everybody's thinking the same way. Groupthink is happening. I don't agree with this. I don't like this. I'm leaving. And now the group gets less perspectives, more and more it becomes more uniform, and more people get burned when they try to come in or resonate. So this is a never-ending problem, but we're getting challenged right now with a deeper question of what do we do when we see sincere interest in joining our community, but there's also very candid transparency of some destructive behaviors outside of our community. Any thoughts or questions on this, including why did I put that picture up there? Because it has a whole story to it. You don't know. Why is there an upside down pyramid behind those people? You all thinking. I know people have told me that my voice can be a little ASMR. So if anybody's feeling like they're starting to nod off, let me know. Yeah. Mary.
Hey you, what is the meaning of that upside down pyramid?
Yay. Thanks for asking, Mary. That was that was one of our Firefly events recently where Maslow's hierarchy of needs was presented. Have you all seen that pyramid? Basically, like, do I have shelter and clothing? Do I have my bare needs met at the bottom of the pyramid? And it goes all the way to the top where it's like self-actualization. Now I'm pursuing all the fun stuff. And it turns out that pyramid that everybody has had some exposure to most of the time is actually not validated. It was a theory that just moved right past the theory and accepted as truth. And we don't move as human beings on a linear path to self-actualization. This is a very individualistic frame. And so when this was presented, our presenter was very gracious, but there were a few people in the room that were like, actually, let's flip the pyramid. Like, what does the pyramid exclude by thinking of it like that linear and individualistic? So we had a really engaging conversation. And at the end, we found that behind the slide, we could go and see the pyramid was upside down. And that became our group photo because we realized that we get to challenge each other every moment in this space and turn things inside out and think about them outside of the box and inside and in between. So I put that picture up as a there was some painful parts of that, but we're also really trying to collectively think differently about all these words we just assume are true. Toxicity is a loaded word. Harassment is a loaded word. It can mean a lot of different things. Yeah. Okay, next slide. So internal tension, one of the ways we work with tension inside of Bridge Makers is we have a section in our Discord called Bridge Shakers. And it's a place where controversial topics get brought up and threads get started. So you can see a whole list of threads that have happened over time. And what I've noticed in our survey, just if you don't have one of these, you might consider it, is that, we do have a time mediation on this. We've learned that asking people to respond thoughtfully and not rapidly is important. But, this alone creates a vent space, like people can vent. And it doesn't provide a ton of visibility on it, but everyone seems to find their way in there and comment randomly here and there. And it gives a little place to dialogue without it becoming just taking up all the space in the middle of our bridge makers. Sometimes these topics turn into workshops. They turn into one-off events. They become things we're going to write on and study more. But sometimes some of these topics are like, wow, my home is exploding and my parents are separating and they didn't know where else to put it. And their bridge is shaking, as an individual. And so that becomes a conversation. So it's not just event space, but it's a realization that the bridge does have to be tested and hard things need to be discussed. And this is a place to do that. Next slide. So you might remember this from a few months ago. We started to show and practice some of the protocols with how do we address harm when it happens inside. This is very early in the process, but we've already had a couple groups on this. And so next slide, we're just going to breeze through this to catch all up because I know half of you at least weren't there last time. So forgive this map. You probably can't even see any of the words on it, but this gives you kind of a high-level eagle-eye view of if we imagine the community that we're in that wedge in between, where we're like, yay, we're in community, it's feeling good, until it's not. So we have people who troll and eventually find their sense of community, even if it is in a predatory way, connecting with other trolls. And then we also have within the community the people that get expelled out of it. And how do they come back? What we're also talking about today is how do we address the people who haven't done anything wrong in our community, but are being very forthright and transparent about the harm they have caused or sometimes still do. That's the conundrum for me, because mostly I've just been like, we're not ready yet. We can't handle more. But when people knock on our doors, I have to every time at least pause and check in with people who are here. I don't want to be the guard that's just kicking people out before you ever get the chance to hear them out, to feel them, to ask yourselves, am I willing to lean into this? And what would that look like if I was? To build a different kind of dialogue and a healing process. All right. So we're not going to go over all of this, but I wanted you to see the kind of, so this is the zoom in place where we have a world now called Wisdom Circle with bridge makers that has these cards in it that goes through these steps of making amends. A lot of times what breaks down in online communities around reparations is at best you're going to get somebody who says, moderators have caught them, said, hey, please don't do this. And they turn around to the person or the people and say, I'm sorry. And that's where it is, right? Like, I won't do it again. But that doesn't mean anything repaired. And it doesn't mean that there's still not going to be exclusionary behaviors to them. So the conundrum I'm facing is, how do people make amends to not me and not us, but we're willing to allow them to try our community out? All right, next slide. There's always a little delay. So just reminding you, if you haven't seen it before, what is our pathway to building the bridge? We're not going to necessarily put you at the very tippy top of the bridge where you can really fall off as soon as you come in here, right? It takes trust and building. So many of you in here went through our maybe funnel. And if you want to know the why everything's named after a B, B-E-E, you can ask on that. But it's a process of recognizing how we vibe together. And maybe even though it is more labor and not easy to scale, we try to hold everybody's hand who wants to come into the bridge and say, what brings you here? And answer some questions. And we want to make sure there's a goodness of fit in the interest and specific knowledge of wanting to build community and be on purpose from the very beginning. Our engagement rate for maybes have shot up. We don't have a statistic for you, but we have much higher engagement since we started doing that. But it does take work. It's a lot. It's not automated yet. So it's definitely a human touch welcoming path. And then by default, if you don't know that you're anything else, you are still a newbie with bridge makers, which just means you're hovering, but you're not quite sure how to build that bridge with us. And so that's just kind of the waiting pool to see if there's something that brings you in and makes you want to add something to us. Then we have the Helper 1 and 2 journey, which is, you've seen that in a lot of communities. It's that place where you're participating on purpose. Bye, Primal. Primal drops in and out. Fostering collaboration and support. So this is where you're going to see more people that are doing tasks like we were talking about. And eventually, this is a very simplified form, but we get to kind of that administration level, that like leaders in training, advisors, leadership. This is where you're going to see people who are in a almost semi-job role, like they are regularly long-term committing to participate with us and support and practice. All right, so that's giving you some of the frames that set up these questions. I know there's a lot of them. Let's go to the next slide. I think the next one is where we have our questions. There might be one more thing. Oh, yeah, and you all have seen this also, but how do we onboard people, and what is the focus?
Froze for me again.
Uh-oh. Can everyone see this? Onboarding?
The onboarding essentials?
Yeah.
Okay, just me.
Still spinning.
Okay. That's interesting. Mary's the only one that can't see it. So, we love the word, right? We just did it in our norms earlier. We love the word inclusive. It sounds like, yay, more the merrier, join the party. But also like, when do we exclude? These are the challenging questions, right? And then accessibility, like one of the criticisms we continue to get is that our Discord has way too many channels in it. And we get to take that feedback and keep trimming it, but also knowing Discord is awkward for this. And so it's always going to be not the right fit for most people. And yet, how do we minimize the noise and keep trying to make it better for you? Okay, next slide. If it's not frozen, there we go. Yeah, so this was interesting. I always go back and look back. When we have a conflict in our community that spins out beyond one person having an issue with us, but kind of is in a more public way, I will do, at least for our internal team, a community kind of report where I'll kind of review and deeply analyze a conflict and what went down and how do we do better next time. And I actually only have 3 reports or any kind of analyses prepared from over a year. We're almost at a year and a half with Bridgemakers. So technically compared to average community, that's kind of phenomenal. We haven't had a lot of big blow ups in our community. We have a transitions channel where we get some critical feedback there sometimes, but otherwise there's a lot of kind of moving in and out of the bridge without targeting it so much so far. I don't want to say fingers crossed, but you know, you might be a part of communities that have a lot more blowups, but we haven't as much. And what you can see in the picture up there from last summit's meditation is we had a little drama going on there with Jose and Lau, and like instead of a bridge, they got confined and they got locked in, and they rolled with it. They just all kind of like curled up and just stayed in the prison they had been built, and we were being very playful in this world to learning about, you know, how play spaces activate us and also soothe us. But I think those role play moments where we get to enact what it can feel like as an actual community experience can be really useful, you know, as a visual. Every time I look at that, I'm like, was I the one that locked Jose in, that locked, you know, like I look at it as a mirror, how we play act, but there's other things it can tell us.
Yeah,
So,
who would lock them in?
I know.
What a
Who
mean
was
thing
that?
to do.
I know.
I wonder.
I see a Mary over there drawing the bridge. Yes,
yeah, I
yes.
wonder.
It was awesome. Mary was learning bridge building from a desktop in a VR space. So yeah, generating and challenging. But these are our two questions. How do we support helpers who are building and constructing and speeding up to slow down, to take care of themselves? And then how do we deal with people who are destroying actively but want to construct with us and are being very transparent about where they're at and what needs they've been getting met in that destruction, but they want to get involved? Normally, my boundary until we started this conversation and I got way more buy-in in this community has been that I want some kind of evidence that there's been at least 6 months of abstinence around trolling behavior. And, you know, that's hard to regulate, but I definitely will check all social media that I can find on somebody. And if there's any kind of throwing shade, that kind of things, then that's a sign for me that they might not be as ready to come and join with us. Sometimes people troll and there's not social media and they're just acknowledging it, that they get something out of this. It can feel like feeling empowered by lessening somebody else's power, and many times without consent. So that is where I'm going to stop talking at all of you and open the floor and just hear feedback in this juxtaposition, hyper construction and hyper destruction. Where are we as a community, and how do we add our perspectives here, not as I am right, but as a piece of the pie? And I need your wisdom here to just try to keep it into like a minute or so we're not dominating the space. But how do we do this? Transformative justice doesn't work if it's one person saying we should, right? So by default, I have to stick more with the default punitive justice, keep the walls up, the end. And I'm prepared to do that in the case that we're in right now. I don't know that we're ready yet to be in a restorative justice, to be transformative. But I'm presenting it to you all as a question without attachment. Who would like to share? Just flooded you all with a ton of slides in virtual reality. Yeah.
I feel like I have things to say, but I don't know where to start. I guess one thing, well, I got cut out for a little bit, but I remember I watched the AI section, and I'm wondering about the dot model. I've seen it come up a couple times as like our community has a solution for how to restore community or, you know, solve issues. but I've always seen it from a distance, like it's a model that exists and it does work. The way it works is still complicated and mysterious. I'm wondering, is it something that we can present as a more practical way, as something that can actually be shown as a solution rather than a potential solution or a hypothetical solution? I know it is probably very, very difficult to condense all of its information, but from a distance, I get this sort of vibe that, like, oh, we have an answer, but you're going to have to come in and figure that out with us. And
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that's
that
to
might be a
present it
key
in
here.
this way. Maybe I'm missing something because I've only been here like a month, so I'm still figuring things out
No, thank you for
about it.
Fedor. It's a worthy question, and it is very kind of this elusive theory. Some people in here have seen it very in depth and had felt some alignment with it. And so to just remove some of the mystery from this, dot model is a model I developed off of other very well validated models that explains conflict from the scarcity side. When we feel like there's not enough, how do we engage? And from the abundance side.
Okay.
And you,
So,
oh,
Ooh.
oh, oh, look at that, Mary. That's very flexible of you. But there is
Yeah, I
a
forgot.
whole there is a whole video in our YouTube channel that actually shows this model from just the deepen part. So we don't have all 3 steps all the way through yet in here. But it shows this model being presented. Also, next month, there's going to be a workshop on this for professionals in social VR. And it's this idea of like when we're in conflict, what is the map inside of us that helps us do our internal work with our emotions and the stories we're telling ourselves so we don't accidentally add to the conflict and spin it and make it go worse or faster? And this is a construct that is being built into different types of communities, from just like online forums to virtual reality spaces. But in Bridgemakers, it's an available resource that takes kind of just a practice of studying it and figuring out how it works for you as an individual first, and then also how it changes you becomes some of those actionable tools. Like you saw one up there of the reframe. When I see a villain and I reframe them as a challenger, how does that change my behavior to them and build a more constructive return? Because I might turn into a challenger back. I'm going to challenge you, you're going to challenge me. But now we're assertive in our interactions instead of, oh, you're being so aggressive and I'm going to be passive, right? So some of this is just the frames that map us back into our bodies. And some of this is also like real solutions on making sure that I'm in a place to build through the stress of that moment, and how to have insight there and contract with each other there. What can we tolerate as far as stress? So I think that's really good feedback though around like more actionable solutions from it without taking away that it's something that's different for everybody. It's kind of an enigma that way, especially in this space. Okay, so I want to hear ideally from somebody who
there is
has.
a
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. Regarding the video, there's a link to it in next steps in the notice board.
Yeah.
I could point you to it if you wanted.
Okay.
If anyone was interested.
Okay.
Thank you.
Silent's going to return on desktop. Thank you, Silent, for checking in. Do you want to chat while you are full body? Because I do love it when you talk with your full body.
I'm not full body. My trackers
Okay.
have already died, and my hands are about to go as well. So
Okay,
I'm
got
gonna...
it. Silent's blowing out
Yeah.
one controller at a time. We'll see you on desktop.
My tracker's already gone, so I'll be
Oh
right back.
no! Thank you, Silent. Sitting
Oops.
still for a while can make it weird. Yeah. So what about somebody who hasn't spoken yet very much? I'd love to hear from one of you. It feels like this is the quiet end of things. What is your perspectives?
Quiet side of this.
The quiet side. They're all looking at each other and going, "We are, we are."
I think I might go here.
Okay, Armani.
I'll be brief. I'm just thinking about the first one.
It's a little hard to hear you.
Oh,
even further.
that's my let me see. Sometimes my volume is a little low. If I have my volume maxed out or not.
I always have to bump Armani up to 150% and just leave it there.
Yeah. But yeah, for the first one, I just think about this like airline example where let's say there's something that happens and there's just decompression and you get this the safety announcers the flight attendants will always say to put on
your own
I guess
mask.
your own mask on first, before you help someone else. And I think about that in this example where one way to support that I'd offer opposite suggestion is to before helpers help at all, they have a chance to find ways to help themselves and then practice that as they're helping us. Like
That's
have a
interesting.
cycle instead of going straight into a project. They can keep whenever they can find designated times to take breaks and build their own rhythm to where they support themselves and at the same time.
So I almost hear in that like a self-care kit or something. Like, what are my practices? They're going to put the brakes on if I need.
Yeah, I'd also say kind of a rhythm too. If they can build their own rhythm, that'll turns into a sort of habit, and they can be able to help themselves while also helping us, and build kind of this mutual helping relationship. So
yeah,
this comes to mind for me for the first one.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece. Writing more on almost learning also from helpers who've gotten through the journey, like what are the things you did to not get too sucked in, and how did that work? Yeah, thank you. From the quiet section again, would we like another?
I don't think I have anything I want to add. But thank you.
Thank you, Nolan Cole. Yeah. All right. Jose, would you like to add anything here?
I guess I have a question. What are the consequences of a helper doing these sprints?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. What are the consequences? I would say I have personally observed that sometimes the sprints can feel good in the middle of them and then later become some kind of evidence of feeling not taken care of or burned kind of by bridge makers. Okay, thanks, Armani. So even though the feelings can be like excitement during the process, it can also create a sense of burnout as a memory of the process later on that then can also become this like, why didn't you stop me, statement to bridge makers or reflections. And so that's the question is, when I can't see you in your life and we have a lot of people tag teaming, helping support helpers, like where does that self accountability come that is not just a like we trust you to take care of yourself, but also like when is it just the recipe is gonna hurt us if we allow it, just because we have the incentive with us is very purposeful. Like the scope goes into way beyond VR. So it can feel very intoxicating to be involved with something that is so purposeful. But I would say I've heard statements about burnout. Hey, Danny, welcome. Nice to have you here. Come on in, join the circle. We're having a discussion circle on these two questions. If you can see the slide. Maybe you saw it already if you're watching the stream. I don't know. But you are welcome to chime in if you have thoughts.
Oh.
Annie's having a seat. Okay. So, what other thoughts are coming up? I think there's more answers to that question, Jose, but I like that you're asking it.
Yeah, so I think the part of the solution to that might be upfront communication in saying that and letting the helper know that they're basically responsible for how hard they want to work, and they're responsible for the whatever burnout that they might be experiencing by overwork.
Okay. Yeah. Which that is one way, and it doesn't necessarily also take into account that that burnout experience can also sway the group, and the missing practice and process of self-care when we push really hard can actually influence the rest of the group, and the places where relationship needed to build didn't because there was such a hard push. And so those routines that allow us to kind of like conflict and come back over and over can sometimes be so disrupted that it does affect the bigger infrastructure. So that's another answer maybe there. Yeah. What other reflections are coming up?
I had another thought. Oh, no, Theo, you can go. I already went.
You go.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking about the part earlier if Bridgemakers is ready to be a place or not where we would go through transforming, I guess, sort of like the trolls or the ones that are having issues. And I was wondering about that as like, what would it take to, I guess, reach that point? And at what point does this just become therapy for people? Like, at what point is a recommendation to go see a licensed therapist just not an option? I know that can feel very exclusionary sometimes. It's like, I don't want to deal with you, go find a professional, but there is sort of a feeling of like, well, how much can people take on to help others before it becomes, really heavy? And when there's people who are trained to do that versus, just us on the internet working together to help make communities better, where is that line, and how do we, help as much as we can? Or, what can we do, I guess? That's another question.
Really, really good questions. What does transformation look like in a way that doesn't sink us all, right? Or even sink one of us, right? Like that most drowning victims, unfortunately, are the people who jumped in to save the drowning victim, right? Like it's it's very easy to get pulled into somebody else's churn and spin. So how do we not become the bridge that bleeding heart died because we stooped too far? We reached too far for our capacity as a group in our own growing. It's a good question. And where is that line where it's like, whoa, this is just outside of the scope? And just so you all know, we have literally one person that has ever been banned out of the server because I believed very early on that they were outside of the scope of what we could handle. And I also knew that somebody they had directly harmed and looked like were continuing to harm was in our server already. And so I was like, nope. And I was pretty clear with them, but I was like, until I see at least 6 months of evidence that you are not indulging in these kinds of behaviors, that's not going to happen. So that was way back in the beginning, but I'm not above setting those boundaries, and have been on very much the edge of that in the last few days again. So yeah, I think that we all have a feeling of like, whoa, this is outside of what I can handle, right? But the question is, what can we handle? And how would we know when we tried and it was too much and not this person is not a match for what we're trying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do have more details of what I believe that is going to look like. We're not the first community system in the world that has had to do really painful, reintegrations or allowing people within the community that they normally would never want to see ever. But in social VR, I haven't seen any models of this being practiced anywhere. So it's a curious journey more than it is a diagnostic and like there's a right way. That, as far as I've seen, there is no way currently invented for this. I've researched this quite a bit. Okay. What else? Thank you for Fedor. Armani, I see your hand. Theo, I see your hand. And I feel like I missed a third hand.
Mary was the
Mary.
Oh, and Danny too. Okay. Yay.
Oh.
So let's go Theo and then Danny and then Armani and then Mary.
No,
oh,
I'm
you're
not in the queue.
defaulting. Okay.
I'm just yeah.
Okay. So Theo.
Yeah, I thought these questions were interesting because I thought to myself, well, this feels as well as what is being taught or what isn't being taught when we label, when I see the words self-care, boundary setting, harmful behavior, which of these models are being taught to in the way that it enacts to someone's self-care that they do or don't do, and how is it reflective of the nature of how an individual is that can set more awareness and understanding of the set foundations of the individual themselves to a community and a leader and these members. Like, how does it set the precedence? There has to be, yeah, like it's like a outer line region of awareness. It seems to account for what is being held onto, what is being conditioned, what is being attached to, and it has to, I feel, allow its frame to be a bit more in the spotlight of things, um that doesn't like it doesn't get perspectivified, because I kept thinking it back further and further of, if the perspective doesn't hold what it knows, what it was taught or wasn't taught, then how does it identify transforming? And that sort of thing has to be understood through putting the right pieces together, but also putting the wrong pieces in the same proximity of each other, because then it sets the difference of this is this, this is this. It allows more awareness, but but also, how do you find that without it conditioning or allowing some burnout from either sides?
Okay. Yeah, I definitely see some kind of meta analysis going on there. How do we make all the pieces work? Danny, your turn.
I don't know how much context I have, but all of this sounds similar to like what I think of as capabilities testing, like in a community. And part of the question I heard over here was about like, when does this become something that like somebody needs a professional to help them with, right? And a psychologist might call this reality testing. Part of what I think more mature communities do is that they help each other develop reality testing capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to add that.
No, that's really interesting. Both the reality from the construction end and the reality from the destruction. It's like, are we matching our realities up enough to build relationship? Lovely. That's a really good frame. Thank you. Okay, so there was another one, and also Silen's back, and we haven't heard from Silen yet. So I kind of want to put Silen in the line here, even though Silen might be. Are you here, Silen?
Oh no.
You're like, not ready. You'd already shared some really great thoughts on the server, so I wanted to give you space to voice those also. But if you're not feeling it,
I did voice some stuff on the server. I guess I'm mostly listening here because I'm also fairly new, so like I'm mostly interested in kind of like basically I can only offer like my impression of what like my initial impression of what the space is supposed to be. I don't actually know like the vibes of like where where the space is going, but that was basically all. Is like my initial impression of the space was that this is like a space to like learn things that we can then take and then apply elsewhere, right? Kind of like build the bridges to elsewhere. But that's just like my like initial interpretation. So
yeah. Well, and one of the questions back is, it sounds like this feels like not that somehow, or is this also that, of saying, how do we work with people who are being destructive and learn how to apply that in our own community systems, and that might also fit within that question.
I mean, it certainly would. It's just like the I guess the screening process that you have for your Discord, for example, kind of like that kind of primed me as like this is not the place where we engage the trolls, right? It's like you would kind of learn the things to engage the trolls, and you would engage the trolls elsewhere, right? Like that's kind of what gave me that impression.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's not something that could be done. It's just that was my impression of the space, basically, given what I've seen so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a whole gradient, right?
Yeah, which is to say that if that's not right, if that's not the thing, then maybe some like need to maybe like change the messaging of like what is being done here. It's just basically my thoughts are more of like an observation rather than like a here's what we should do.
Yeah.
This is the what I've observed.
Yeah, I was literally interviewed for a podcast like 3 weeks ago, and this person, because they were initially experienced me through talking about the Troll Project, even though I repeatedly said on their Bridgemakers and the Troll Project are separate, they are not the same thing. One did inspire some of what's happening in the second, but they are not, there's not a crossover. And this person still listed it as Troll Project as part of Bridgemakers. And so I had to go back and be like, nope. And they pulled it down and they had to rewire it all. So, this is a part of transformative justice, is continually questioning what we think we are and saying, is there a better balance here? And are we ready to have that conversation? But up to this point, the scope of what Bridgemakers is focused on is specifically community builders and leaders. And this is challenging that a little bit. And I just want us to have a real talk moment about it and see what we can offer with just, we've got about 15 minutes left of our time. So we're going to switch into just some acknowledgements and kind of where we're going to take what this conversation has been and grow it, hopefully. I want to be really respectful of the trust that has been built here, and recognizing that, well, trust does get to have those moments of testing. This might be the full cycle of how far we explore this right now. We just might not be set up yet to hold an accountable space for somebody who's that early in their recovery process. Yeah. Ronan.
Okay, just very, very quickly. I think we're really illustrating that we are trying to come from a position of grace towards working with people, dealing with people, living and understanding that there are issues, even if we don't always understand what those issues can be. And so it's important to do that. But then the other part is a sense of forgiveness. And yes, we can talk about how we forgive another in order to bring them back into the group. But the other simple answer is that we also have to kind of forgive that we're not going to get it right as we move along. It's going to be when we decide to use non-prescriptive measures by which to deal with people. That is to say, you're 3 strikes and you're out type of deal. You're actually going to be finding that life is very difficult for you at times, and you're never going to get it right the first time, and maybe not the 100th time. So, and that should be okay. So that gets to be another part of it. I'll just leave with that.
And looking at the boundary setting as distance instead of walls is another way to think about that. Is that
Correct.
I might fatigue in supporting somebody who has a lot of complexity and kind of lost parts. But can I know that and warn them and be very explicit and move away without saying, you're broken, something's really wrong with you, but just saying, I need more recovery time after spending time with you, or we need to process better. Like it's a lot of intense challenging happening when you're around. So how do we make gradients of that kind of coming together and moving apart instead of just like, oh, something triggered and slam? Because that slamming doesn't just affect the individual, that affects all of our nervous systems. And it tells us where we can fracture with each other and just erase each other like a bad dream. So, really good conversation here. Thank you all. Some of this is me bringing you my heart as a leader in Bridge Makers with these two colliding pieces that just felt kind of beautiful in their equal stress for me of like, you are all parts of how I'm doing this. Thank you for the rainbows. How I'm doing this a little differently. But I don't want to be the hero here. As you can tell, the heroes always fall and shatter, and I'm here to hold with you and take your trust seriously and not misuse your trust because I maybe have more of a range in handling some harmful behavior, but that's also a burden and stress on y'all. Or I may have more of a pull for productive spaces, but I want us all to collectively encourage each other to slow down. And like, there have been people who haven't joined Helpers because they've realized they had too much of a sense of urgency. And they said, hey, you don't want me to join because I need to save Bridge Makers, right? I'm like, right. Yeah. Even though I totally want Bridge Makers safe, I don't want people to come in here to rescue it. I want people to come in here to ritual with it. And that's different. Yeah. So let's try a checkout that in spirit of Venya, who couldn't be here today. Venya has brought this as an exercise as we check out this idea of a rose a rose petal, or a rose, a thorn, or a bud. So
roses and thorns.
Yeah, or buds, right? So the rose is like what bloomed in me from this moment where I'm feeling a sense of joy or flow. Something is emerging. And then the thorn is an irritation, something that's stuck with me that I know is going to follow me out of here. And I got to work on that spot. But it still could mean I'm going to grow. And then the bud is like the hope, the piece that I'm carrying for this moment. But it's the rose is like the aha, and the bud is like something's beginning. I have a question or something. We don't know what that bud is yet. So you can choose one of those three things, and then just check in about that. And let's go in a full circle to kind of close out how we learned, how we grew each other, what we're taking away from this space. So we'll start with whoever raises their hands first, and then we'll just pick a direction. A rose, a thorn, or a bud. Yeah, Ronan.
I see this as a bud in that, again, we're trying to understand or evolve a community that is very challenged in in the world of VR chat, which is tends to be something that doesn't create very large or communities with longevity. It does have a tendency to it isn't that VR chat does this. It's that people are still trying to understand their role in this kind of space, and with people and friends of this nature, which is very different to the real life way that perhaps we're used to. So I think, like I said, this is a bud in that we are growing how we would like it to evolve, as opposed to allowing just whatever to happen.
Yeah, we know the default. Can we make this a bud moment where we all grow a little bit more, just somehow? Yeah. Thank you, Ronan. So, Theo or Profridor, who would like to say their thorn or bud? Win, lose, or draw.
Well, I guess I could go.
Sure.
I mean, in related to that quote, I guess I'm still feeling a little bit of like a thorn. I guess it's like it feels like things are still kind of vague in what our goals are and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
That concrete actions and concrete goals. We have some events lined up, which is great. Super glad for that. I guess I'm just wondering, like, what is it all
What's
leading
next?
to? Yeah, what's next? It's
Yeah.
like, not that I don't doubt you. I just, from what I've seen a lot, it's still it's very open-ended, which is nice. But I'm worried that that vagueness could lead to things kind of dissolving or falling apart, or unclarity or uncertainty.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just like wondering where it's going to go from here.
Yeah, thank you. It does definitely open up kind of like two different kinds of Pandora's boxes. And I'm like, let's peek in. And then thank you, everybody. So what I will do is also commit to doing a reflection kind of follow up, probably at least an article on what I learned here today, what was shared, and what next steps might be in figuring out if we are revising something or if we're just taking a moment to pause and ask ourselves if we're ready to engage in more details and an action plan for rehabilitative accountability for people trying to enter, or rehabilitative hyper activity for helpers that want to go really fast. So yeah, thank you for asking for the concrete piece, and I will commit to following up on that. And it won't be like, hey, you decides, but the other thing that I'm still gathering from is our advisory council also on what is everybody's opinions on these. So yeah, more will be found. So we had Ronan and Profidor. So Jose, you're next. Rosebud or Thorn, or Rose, Thorn, or Bud?
I think this is a bud, but I'm trying to take away from this just thoughts about how overhelping can have a negative effect on people unintentionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. There's all kinds of answers there, but I like that you're opening up that question. Speed matters. It influences how the experience is. Yeah. Silen, what about you?
Hi. I have a rose and a thorn. So I guess to start with the rose, I actually really appreciate the space and I guess the willingness of everyone here to kind of take a look at what this space is about and try and kind of puzzle and like figure that out. I think that's a very positive way to do things. At the same time, I guess this is like a bit of like the thorn is that like bit of that nagging fear in my head. I feel that it's usually not actually very appropriate to like have like the core value and like the core mission of a group. I think is like something that should be very clear and very and very like upfront, and most importantly, it's always very scary when it's like up for committee, like I think most of the I guess the really successful like projects that I've been in, so you kind of have some people who like gift their values to the project, and you kind of make this like really strong stance where like here's what this group is about, and then those values are what everything else is built upon. And then when you I feel like I guess the thorn here is that I hope, or I guess the buds now I've now my hope I have in talking I've actually come up with one is that this will be an opportunity to then like set that solid foundation and then like keep it there, right? Rather than it being something that's constantly like shaky and those values are like constantly changing up for like committee. Hopefully like this time you'll kind of be able to figure out what the values of this space are and then kind of have that foundation to build upon.
Lovely. Thank you. Yeah. And I do believe the values of a living community need to change over time. So these kinds of reassessments are important. Like how much of this is a hey you community versus a hey us community. Right. And so there is a co-construction of those values, but if it's done gently and progressively and iteratively, and we can anticipate these cycles, I kind of threw this all at you, sprung it on you. But if we know that, like, every 6 months we're going to have a values talk and anybody who wants to come can come or whatever, then that can be something that feels a little less like, oh no, am I going to come tomorrow and it's going to be like troll party, like the fear is real because, things can change really fast in communities. Many people here know that. So thank you for also naming that. Yeah. And that is, I'm very slow about shifting anything. I look at this like a bridge, but also a ship. So I don't think anything's going to happen even overnight, over a month, over a week here. It's going to be a continual process of here's what I think I heard y'all say, and let me know if I missed something. Yeah. All right, Armani, Rosebud or Thorn?
Yeah. From what I can see, I from my restricted idea, more of a I see the bud and how we're discussing this. That's just it's a part of the process. From I can tell, it's yeah, it's that I do share especially just like in the process of auditing and reviewing our pathways that we have for people who join. I can like see the thorns the address and some of that, and I can make this better for our helpers too. But yeah, I by seeing the thorn, I can also see the bud like right next to it. So yeah, that's what's the mind for me today,
Thank
especially. I know it's
you.
a broad
Yeah.
brush summary, but
I'm glad
yeah.
you could be here for this as one of our core advisors. It's really important to feel the conversation on the ground in addition to the continual chat we have about these kinds of things. So thank you. No one cold. Rosebud or Thorn?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you re-explain the bud, the rose, and the thorn?
Yeah. So the rose is like you're feeling a bursting and a full circle moment. The thorn is you're feeling an irritant and a fear, kind of like it'll grow you, but it still snags. And then the bud is more like a hope. It's not something solid, but it's something that's just beginning in you. You're realizing there's a hope here instead of just a pain.
Very good. I'll say bud. I feel like there's a hope if I stick around long enough and I am able to open up more. We will have to see. And I'm not sure if this could count as a thorn, but I do have a concern. Only that I sometimes find it hard to hold attention. And that I am not very smart. I'm not very good at expressing my thoughts.
Thank you for the vulnerability. That is a lovely offering that is welcome here too. And as you spend more time around me, I think the medicine you give so many people around trusting themselves and being in their power, I will be practicing with you as I would challenge your I'm not very smart. And attention builds over time. So thank you for being here and just being you. Really glad you're here. Bees! Yay!
Bees.
All right. Mary. And then we're going to do a picture here in just a couple minutes here.
Oh, we skipped over Hey.
Oh, well, I will. What is mine? Well, you're all my rose. This is a bloom. Thank you for having this conversation with me. I feel so alone in these thoughts so much of the time. So this is somewhat self-indulgent, but thank you for sitting with the ambiguity. My gosh. Imagine being in my mind and trying to fall asleep at night. It's not fun. But yeah, you're definitely holding the outside parts that are helping me grow. So thank you. Yeah. Mary.
For me, it's a rose, and it's a little bit meta, but just appreciating the courage, or maybe the friendliness of the space that people were able to share their thorns so openly. And,
yeah.
Reminded me of one of the Fenia's sessions about the difference between participatory groups and ventral groups, that we feel comfortable participating here is nice.
Yeah. Not solving anything together. That's what we do. we get to the bridge part eventually, but sometimes we just sit in the this is hard. These are hard things. All right, Danny, your turn.
Again, I feel like I've missed some context, but I feel my friends all know that like I'm really bad at stopping and smelling the roses, so I feel like I've got a thorn in me most of the time.
Oh,
I met I met a couple of you because I'm involved doing community leadership on here too, and I do engage with bad actors sometimes in the hopes of trying to help out. So I often find myself asking this question of, is there a more efficient way to help people, you know? And like I've heard a couple people say, it is sometimes more important to slow down. But I'm reflecting on what I've heard, I suppose, that I am prone to being a helper that burns out easily. And so I really feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's so honest.
Yeah.
Same here. I'm definitely in a continual state of burnout helping with printmakers. And I've learned how to let that be a liminal space, right? That a part of me just wants to be like, oh, I guess the bridge is dead. Goodbye. And another part of me wants to just say, this is my heart and I'm here whether or not anybody is doing anything. And another part of me feels sad sometimes, but being in between all of those and taking your rhythms as part of my rhythms on how fast we move and what we decide is part of my journey. So thank you, Danny. What a cool way to close out. So let's, I'm going to close the screen, or do we actually have the picture for the end? I don't
We
remember.
do.
Okay. So
do you want this
let's
one?
do a photo. Yeah, there should be one more that just says the month, but maybe we didn't get that
I don't
changed.
see it changing.
Okay. Well,
oh, you might need to refresh.
but also, it just basically says what month it is, not that you're signing up to be a troll mentor or something. Believe me. That was a joke, but you know, if you'd like to sign up.
Yes.
Oh
yeah, let's do
yeah. If you'd love to join and be a part of this Bridge Thorn Rose self-examination moment, we get together and not solve things once a month, and sometimes we play more than we did today. But thank you for your participation and all of you. This will be our photo for the month. Danny, hop in here if you want. If you don't.
Theo.
Big Theo.
There, big gigantic troll. There we go.
Whoa.
Jittery.
Oh my goodness. All right. So 3, 2, 1, yell out any word that comes to mind and we'll see which wins. And please emoji. And this will be our send off to our viewing audience too. So 3, 2, 1, yell your words.
RoseBud.
Did you say spuds?
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane. Oh my gosh. I love it.
I apparently can't throw my roses. I'm very sad.
It was a
sled.
Oh.
That was a sled. Yes, that's
so
it.
good.
Some emoji.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Wow, I heard so many words.
Yay.
I don't even know which one to pick. What did
Oh no, I
you
just
all
can't throw emojis.
hear as your favorite word? I know, don't look Theo's direction. That's a lot, but thank you, Theo, for the picture. That's going to be an interesting one. I heard buds, spuds, and particles, and Citizen Kane. There were so many. I'm not sure which one to pick. But thank you all for being here.
RoseBud was a cheat in the original Sims
That
game.
is, yeah. Okay. Let's go with RoseBud.
I did not know this.
Go with that. That's middle ground. So RoseBud is our word for the day.